membrane which is semi-permeable. And the closest example, the easiest example I could find was making tea, for example, separating tea with the tea itself. So that's the simplest example when we look at the filtration process. The only difference here is that we actually use the gravitational force to separate, but in the membrane filtration we need a little bit more force to be able to separate. So a little bit deeper in the membrane filtration, there are different types of membrane filtration depending on the sizes of the pores of the membrane itself. So if we look into the bigger size pores, it's in the micron level, so it's called microfiltration. And if you go deeper a little bit smaller in the sizes, it's ultrafiltration. Similarly, nanofiltration, and the last one is reverse osmosis. And when we use these ones, we are actually able to separate, for example, by using microfiltration, we can separate milk fat or caseins from the milk. Or if we go to the ultrafiltration, then we can separate whey proteins and lactose, for example. And then if we go to the nanofiltration level, then we can separate minerals, for example, calciums and sodiums and potassiums. And if we go to the reverse osmosis, then we can actually separate water. In the previous slides, I mentioned, as we all know, milk contains almost 88% of water. And we are able to separate water if we want to separate from it by using reverse osmosis. So basically, if we want to summarize what we can do by using membrane filtration is that we can have different fractions of milk into different tanks, for example, and we can tailor-make the composition as we want to. For example, if we want to make cheese or butter or any other dairy products. In ALA, we focus on different key technologies, at least in the innovation departments. We are focusing in the different future technologies, and one of them is milk fractionation or membrane filtration. And we do have a lot of products that is solely based on these key technologies, and I'm not able to go through all of them, but I will show some of them that might be relevant for Indian dairy industry. When we look at the technologies, for example, we look at from the three different angles. For example, you can see from the innovation angle, the supply chain angle, and the commercial angle. When we talk about innovation angle, it's about looking at our competitive advantages or how differentiated we are compared to our competitors. Supply chain wise, we look at how much capacity we have in our sites, in the production sites. Do we have enough capacity? And then commercial wise, we will have brands that actually are selling our product. And then if you look at the innovation, for example, we have more than 9 and plus more than 6 patents that are ongoing. So we are continuously also looking at different opportunities for patenting our technologies. And the supply chain wise, we have almost 200,000 meter square membranes installed in our production sites. Only if we are in our part of organization, we have almost 30 sites with 200,000 meter squares of membranes. And we have, of course, different dairy products that are based in membrane filtration. And then one thing I would not talk about is ALA Food Ingredients. It's our sister company. It's similar to what Dr. Rao mentioned, having different ingredients out of milk. But I'm going to talk more on the end consumer products directly from milk. So a little bit of the history of there was already a patent filed in or 69 already in France on use of membrane filtration for cheese making, for example. And there were already publications published, review paper published, for example, cheese making by ultrafiltration, and also in the cheese applications and yogurt applications. So it's not a new technology itself, but if you look today, for example, how much we use membrane filtration in dairy technology, dairy, especially in the developed countries like in Europe or in North America, this is how it looks like. And I don't want you to look in details because it's too messy. But this is called, we call it membrane map of dairy sites, for example. And there are a lot of membrane filtration plants installed in dairy. If you look in the upper part, it's mostly at the end consumer based productions, and then if you look at the green or the bottom part, is for the whey processing. So, for example, one of the, I think the biggest example or the good example of application of membrane filtration in dairy is use of cheese whey, as mentioned by Dr. Rao, because almost 2 decades before, cheese whey used to be at least a waste product for dairy, but today it is considered as a golden liquid because we can separate the very important components of milk, for example, whey proteins, by using membrane filtration. So I'm going to give you some examples of membrane filtrations in consumers' dairy products. So the first one is actually the membrane microfiltration, the application of microfiltrations. In Asia, I think especially in India and also of course in Nepal, we actually like to consume or drink milk that is warm. But if you go to Europe, for example, they drink milk almost all the time cold. And they want to have it as fresh as possible. So, because they don't like the cooked flavor of milk, right? And by doing microfiltration, for example, before pasteurization, we can remove some of the bacteria. We can almost remove all of them if you want to, but if you apply just a gentle microfiltration, you could remove like 3 logs of bacteria present in the milk. And that allows, when we are doing the pasteurization, we can have low temperature compared to the normal pasteurization, so it gives a longer shelf life of the product. For example, from 14 days to 21 days. So it's a fresher for longer. The concept is keeping the fresh milk for a longer time and having the shelf life longer. It also improves the food security and food waste reduction as well. So another example I wanted to give you is on the lactose-free. I don't know how much of the population in India are lactose intolerant, but in Europe, for example, especially in Finland, almost all dairy products are lactose-free. So if we are trying to make milk with lactose-free, then one of the technologies, this is our patented technology, is application of the combination of ultrafiltration and nanofiltrations. And if you look at the processing diagram, what we can do is, first of all, we do the ultrafiltration on the skim milk, for example, to separate the proteins and lactose. By implementing nanofiltration after the ultrafiltration, what we can do is we are separating almost 50% of lactose. And then we mix all the other parts of the milk and we hydrolyze the remaining part of the lactose in the milk. By doing that, what we can do is actually, if you could have already put the lactase enzyme and to hydrolyze all the lactose in the milk and to make it lactose free, but it becomes very sweet. And then, especially in Europe, they don't like sweet milk, so we reduce 50% of lactose before hydrolyzing it so that it actually matches the sweetness level of the conventional milk. So that's how we are doing it, and by doing that we are also reducing the carbohydrate level, so it's a healthier option as well for the consumer. Another thing I wanted to talk is on high protein fermented dairy products. So Greek style yogurt is very popular at least in Europe and North America. Skyr is very, very popular. It's Icelandic yogurt and quark as well. So the way we actually produce this is actually we have milk, we ferment it, and then after fermentation we do the separation process. By doing the separation process, what we do is we have like 1/3 of milk is converted to a final product, and then 2/3 of the milk is separated to acid weight. So to do that, the separation process in the early slide, you can do it by separator, for example, the centrifugal separator or ultrafiltration. But there is another technique to you could actually add